We apologize for the delay. We are a day late, but we are coming to you live now with myself, Cole, Matt, and Eric. And tonight we're going to be talking to you about our individual philosophies and the different things that we believe when it comes to philosophy and things of that sort. So I will throw it over to Eric first for him to talk about his ideology.
All right. Yeah, I'm a nihilist, which is basically nihilism is the rejection of the belief in objective morality, existence, and knowledge, and things of that nature. And so that's like just basically the one sentence summary that I can give you. So whoever's next.
Matt, you want to take yours?
Yeah, sure. As of now, I adhere to a Marxist philosophy, which includes dialectical materialism. And dialectical materialism, well, I'll explain dialectics and then I'll explain materialism. Dialectics is a method of reasoning which aims to understand things concretely with all their movement, change, and interconnectedness, and with their opposite and contradictory aspects in unity with one another. And then materialism is a philosophical trend which emphasizes the material world as the foundation of knowledge. This is where human knowledge stems from, is the material world.
Okay.
So it can then, dialectical materialism can pretty much be described as the process of understanding the material world and how it affects and alters society and human thought.
Okay. So that's Marxism, yeah?
That's pretty much the core philosophy of Marxism, is dialectical materialism.
Right. Okay. And then Cole, do you want to talk about yours?
All right. Where to start? Sternary and egoism. There's three different sects of it: the rational, the ethical, and the psychological. The primary tenet is just the ideas of self and dissolving one's connections to the corporeal world and focusing merely on the idea of self and dissolving the idea of spirit, really, to simplify it a little bit. The ethical rejects the idea of objective morality. The psychological rejects the idea of altruism, and things such as that. But that's just a basic, quick little overview there for you. We
All
can
right.
go a little bit more into detail after Patrick outlines his a little bit.
Yep. So I am for right now. This is obviously subject to change. But right now, I am an objectivist in the Ayn Randian fashion. So to give you kind of an overlook about what that is, I'm going to take it straight from the horse's mouth and give you a quote from Ayn Rand herself. So
Literally
she
the horse's
says,
mouth.
literally, yes, literally the horse's mouth, and I can
Yeah,
actually.
we said we only had one faggot. Now there's two.
All right, so she
So
says,
go on.
my philosophy, in essence, is the concept of man as a heroic being, with his own happiness as the moral purpose of his life, with productive achievement as his noblest activity, and reason as his only absolute. So, to kind of go off of this, there's another principle, and we'll talk about axioms, I'm sure, that this episode, but there's a lot of axioms. One of the main beliefs in this is that there is objective morality, and that we can draw conclusions from that. For example, a statement such as murder is wrong can be just subjectively true as something like 1 + 1 = 2 or A = A. And that's kind of the basic overview.
Behavior intensifies.
What was that?
Universally acceptable behavior intensifies.
All right. So what I'm thinking here is that we can all explain our philosophy in terms of ethics, metaphysics, and so on.
Right. Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Do we want to go in the same order?
Yeah, why not? Let's do it.
So, Eric, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, like I said earlier, ethics for nihilism is just you reject that there's an objective morality or an objective way that, or objective right way that man should behave, and metaphysics it's all basically the same thing. It's you're just rejecting if there's an objective set of values or method to determine knowledge or a certain way to behave. That's basically what it is. So I mean, it's going to be the same answer for all of them.
To interject really quickly with just a interesting little tidbit for you guys. Nietzsche, one of the primary nihilist philosophers that people will talk about, was actually a successor of Max Stirner.
And you are a Stirnian egoist, yes?
Stirnerian, yes.
Yes. Okay. So, Matt, I believe you were next.
Yeah, I guess a Marxist view at morality or ethics is one of relativism. It would argue that there is no objective morality and that morality is a product of the material conditions, social relations, and how developed productive forces are in society. It basically says that the morality of a society stems from its economic base.
Anything
That's
you
pretty
want to
much
add to
really
that?
it.
Okay, cool. All right, Cole, go ahead.
All right, Stoner is basically along the same lines. The famous quote from him is, "If it is right for me, it is right. It may be wrong for others, but let them worry about themselves." I messed that up a little bit, but you get the point. Basically, the idea is worry about your own shit.
All right.
Go
All right.
around killing a bunch of fucking people because people are going to get pissed off. And if they respond, it is in their right to respond and in no way wrong. Basically, yes, the ethics of it, the morality of it is do what you think is right and deal with the consequences later.
Okay. All right, and then for objectivism, I guess I'm going to use the murder is wrong or murder is right example a lot because I think that's one of the most like radical ones when it comes to the other ideologies. But for objectivism, like the ethics or morals of it, is that the morals that we say can be objective are kind of determined by what is generally done in a specific group or society or culture and what's thought to be right. So, like in American culture, it is wrong to murder people and it is wrong to steal from your fellow man, unless of course you're the government, then it's perfectly okay. But uh, with that in mind,
That's how you really feel.
I mean, am I wrong? No. So, I guess the main thing is that there is objective morality that is set down by a group, society, or culture, and that those are the moral things you should stand by. However, man, of course, has free will, so whether he sticks to those morals or ethics is entirely up to him.
But then, could you really consider those objective if they're questioned? Or
They're still objective in that the society itself will condemn a man or a woman for doing so. However,
but the
via
idea of
free will.
objective is existing without.
Independent of observation. Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
So
if I were to murder Eric for being a huge homosexual,
Which I am, by the way, and I
Society
in
would-
no way deny.
society would frown upon you, but
society
that
would frown upon that. And probably, I'd feel probably pretty bad about it, you know, as warranted
What a
as it would be.
loser. Fucking morals. Ew.
So I'd feel pretty bad about it, right? And I would know that it was wrong, but it would still happen.
Then why'd you kill him?
Because he pissed me off and he was I don't know, because he was a fucking nihilist and I was pissed at him.
Is it because he beat you in a debate?
But I mean, you mentioned free will too.
Yeah.
What if there isn't a free will? Like, what if determinism is true? Which I think there's actually some good evidence for that.
There's evidence
Also,
for
wouldn't
it.
the idea of objective morality go completely against the idea of free will?
No.
I mean, the only actions of if you're not able to commit those actions,
No. I think you misunderstand what objective reality or.
I think what he's saying is that there's like these things that you can like that you shouldn't do because they're objectively morally wrong. Like you can choose to do or to not do them, but like it doesn't matter. Like in that context, they're still there whether or not you decide to follow them.
Yeah.
Is
So
what he's saying.
objective morality is saying that there are things that you should not do, but it's not necessarily things that you will not do. So murder would be the example in our society. Murder is something that you should, like in our society, that you should not do, but it's something that people still do all the time.
All right. I mean, I don't know. I kind of like that we kind of just teamed up on Patrick there. So why don't we team up on somebody else now?
You brought it up.
Me.
This is on you.
All right.
Yeah, let's Eiffel Tower someone.
Okay.
I think
do it.
Eric would enjoy that the most.
No doubt.
So, Matt, obviously Marxism has not been wildly successful.
Well,
It
that's
depends on how you
important
define
argument.
successful. Sure.
So, how can you justify such an ideology?
Like, I don't know. I would say that why it wasn't successful is because the material conditions
Human
weren't
nature.
right for. Well, you can't. I guess you can't say Marxism is successful. You could argue that communism or socialism aren't successful, but
Right.
Marxism isn't a system. It isn't. Any of
Well,
that.
it is tied to an economic system.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
Right. So I think for you to say that Marxism, it has to be something that the entire society embraces. So how would you impart those ideas upon an entire society?
How would I?
How would you spread your philosophy
Well,
in its things that is not really in accordance with how people act right now? How would you spread that to an entire society?
that's a good question, and I think it stems from idealism, is that all we have to do is just spread our ideas.
Right.
And I don't think that me spreading, I could shout at the rooftops Marxism, but that wouldn't matter. What matters is the material world, like I was mentioning before, is that the material world is going to change society. The inherent contradictions within the material world is what will bring about a new society.
Matt's raising a point here I'd like to expand upon, and it doesn't just apply to Marxism. It applies to a lot of different philosophies, because all of us here, I feel, constantly hear the ideas, well, one person doesn't make a difference, or, well, why are you doing this? People don't agree with it, so it's never going to work. Shit like that. We all hear that, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But is not the point of what we do here and other places? I hear this a lot with veganism. Is not the point that we do this for educating the people so that they can see things like this and understand, well, hey, this is viable, and maybe I should stop shitting on it because I don't think it's realistic. What makes these ideas, in my eyes, unrealistic is the thought by these people that it's unrealistic.
Well, and I
From
think
the get-go,
you also have to add that
the idea.
individual people are not very interested in philosophy or politics, right? So that's something that's going to be very, very difficult to convert people. When Matt, when you say that, obviously it's a long-term hope, is that everybody's going to be converted by such an ideal or such a philosophy. But the fact of the matter is that most people don't really give a shit about philosophy.
Well, I don't even think that, like, you would necessarily need to, like, convert everybody, right? I mean, like, if we're gonna have a fucking anarchist society, not everybody has to be a fucking anarchist, right? Like,
Right.
we're not trying to do that, so I don't think that it necessarily needs everybody to be in
Not
agreement with your
everyone, but
ideas.
50% plus one.
Hold on.
Well, not even then. Like, I mean, like, if you're gonna have a fucking violent revolution, you need 5% of the people, maybe. Like,
Yes.
if you like 50 plus 1 doesn't mean anything. Like,
Yeah, but if they try to form another state and people start voting,
Well, all right.
you
Hold
know,
on.
you see what I mean?
And you kill them.
To get
Okay.
back here for a second, is that you guys were mentioning, like, converting to this ideology, whatever it may be.
Yes.
Like, I think that misses the point, is because it's not just, like, about people converting. Like, if we moved from feudalism to capitalism, it was because of the inherent contradictions between the feudal landlords and the peasants. And so capitalism will inevitably move to socialism due to the inherent contradictions between the working class and the capitalist class. It's not about just human ideas. These aren't just ideas dreamt up in the minds of philosophers. These are actual material things.
And guys, I gotta get the door real quick. I will be right back.
All right. So, Cole, should we team up on you there? Me and Eric?
Yeah, definitely.
let's do it.
I would love
Okay.
that.
You're about to get Eiffel Towered. Prepare your butthole.
Oh yeah. You want to go first, Eric?
Yeah. So so Stirnerian egoism is only concerned with the individual, right?
Yes, it is
So what
considered
if
the birth of individualism.
right? So who's to say which individual preference is better? Say there's one individual that decides to, like, I know this is a fucking lifeboat scenario here, but like, just bear with me. There's one dude that decides to go out and acquire a nuclear weapon and decides to launch that and kill a couple 100,000 people. Like, is that just a thing that happens in that society? Like, because people feel like it and they're fucking sociopaths, or like what happens?
Well, really throwing me under the
That's a
bus
real
there.
Wow.
Well, that's the thing.
Did I drop a metaphorical nuke on you? I'm sorry.
Pretty much.
We have a second Hiroshima, guys.
Well, yeah, I thought that's what Nagasaki was.
No, Hiroshima was a different type of bomb than Nagasaki, dumbass.
Anymore, back to the topic at hand, Cole.
I was trying to give you a break, Cole. I hope you made use of it.
Well, the deal with that is,
I could ask you something, and you can think longer, I guess.
Yeah, you can go ahead and put that on the back burner.
I'm trying to figure out how to word it.
Mine's not necessarily a question, more of just a statement, and it's that egoism to me just seems kind of childish, like a spoiled child. And that's not. Maybe there's nothing wrong with being a child, though. Maybe that's just our view of that being quote unquote wrong.
And I think that egoism doesn't really take into account your interactions with your fellow man.
Says the objectivist whose whole idea was based around a misinterpretation of egoism.
Yep, but guess what? Happiness.
Rand was also an egoist, too. She just had a retarded version of it.
That's been wildly popular ever since. I mean, what?
Okay, both of you are done being faggots. Back to the question.
Back to what Matt was saying, I actually had a quote that kind of helps with this. Stirner actually laid the ideas of egoism into 3 stages. These aren't the 3 sects, like the rational, ethical, and psychological. There are actually 3 stages to egoism that he put forth. And the child was the earliest one. If the child has not an object that it can occupy itself with, it feels ennui, for it does not yet know how to occupy itself with itself. The whole ideas were that the child stage was where egoism was to begin. The young adult stage was where the actual ideas of egoism would set in, and then the adult would be separating oneself from the spirit.
Okay.
So I can see somewhat what you mean, but the issue is egoism's also attempting to dissolve the bond between the spiritual religion, things like that, and the need to impose yourself upon others. And I think this really ties in with Eric's question as well, actually, in that the whole idea is not, well, I have the power to impose myself on others. It's the idea, well, let me rephrase. It's not that I should impose my will on others, it's that I have the power to, but I have no necessity to, because then they would feel the right to impose their ideas on me. And to impose one's ideas on another goes against every tenet of egoism.
And you use the word tenet loosely, I assume.
Yes.
When you say tenet, I assume you're talking about just like ideal or...
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just making sure we're on the same page. So Eric, I have a question for you about nihilism.
Shoot.
And here, let me make sure I'm phrasing this correctly.
How long ago did you and the Abyss hook up?
I don't know. I was in that abyss for a long goddamn time. Shit got real.
Did it
I
stare
don't.
back at you?
It stared back at me and it like stare raped me.
Oh,
So
Yay?
all right.
Yes. So I guess my question then it's two-parter, I guess, depending on the first answer. So
I'm only taking one part questions, so fuck yourself.
Are you gonna take it in the ass?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. All right. So in that case, do a nihilist believe that free will exists, or are you determinists?
It kind of depends. Like, I mean, I don't know, I guess is the answer, because like you really can't know. There's no way to like determine if like life is determined or man has free will, right? Like I
Okay.
just defer it to I don't know.
Okay. So you are literally saying there is no objective truth. There is nothing that we can know in the universe, and I don't know.
I mean, nihilism makes no claims.
Basically, what Matt
Yeah.
said.
Okay.
I mean,
Which, I mean, I can respect that. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I understand where you're coming from.
Okay.
All right. So Matt, what time are we at right now?
We are 20 minutes in.
Wow.
I had an interesting idea after I read The Stranger by Camus, which does have a lot of like nihilist tones in that book. If you've read it.
well, he was still an existentialist, even though he
Yeah.
like Nietzsche.
Wait. So Eric, have you read that?
I haven't.
Okay. Well, then I don't want to give away the end, and it involves my criticism would involve the end. So never mind.
All right.
Have any of you read Atlas Shrugged?
No,
No.
we're not gay.
Well, you
I've
say
watched
that.
Paint Dry before, so that's like the same thing, right?
Granted, Atlas Shrugged was a very, very difficult book to read, but it was powerful. It was a very, very good book, and if you get the chance to read it, I would absolutely recommend that you read it.
Did it get
I'd
you
say
feel
the
tingly
same
in your
for-
special parts?
I would say the same for Thus Spoke Zarathustra. If you haven't read that, you should read that.
That book is dope.
If y'all want to do anything better than like watch paint dry, or as Patrick said, read anything by Ayn Rand, read anything. I mean, the best thing you can do, all joking aside, is read as much as possible. Read every philosopher you can.
Yeah, as
no
much
matter
different
how
philosophies as you
shitty they
can, too.
are. Ayn Rand.
Wait. Eric, you're an anarcho-capitalist. You can't hate Ayn Rand.
I can and I do, and quit telling me what to do, you statist fuck.
Are you a collectivist?
Let me
I think
actually
you're a
raise
collectivist.
let me raise a point here really quick for Patrick.
Oh, boy.
Any ANCAP that actually supports Ayn Rand
Is a pussy.
retarded.
Yes.
All right.
I don't think that.
She supported the detaining of socialists and turned them in for the sole fact that they were socialists.
Yeah, because socialists are fucking pussies.
Ayn Rand was a piece of shit.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not saying you're wrong. I mean, she took Social Security, which I think is pretty hypocritical. But I don't think that makes her ideas any less valid. Because Marx was a moocher. He lived off the son of a wealthy factory owner who was one of his best friend, and he lived off of that guy.
Also,
So, I mean,
interestingly enough, Engels himself owned a factory.
yeah. So I mean, there's hypocrisy everywhere, and it doesn't make the ideas that these people have made any less valid.
Sterner wasn't.
All right.
If we're done jerking off dead people, like, can we get back to it?
Yeah.
I don't have
There was
really
something
much
I wanted
else
to say to you, Cole. I'm trying to remember what it was.
Well, I mean, the thing is, Sterner truly adhered to his ideals. Sterner himself even said that love was retarded and never took a wife.
That's stupid.
Yeah, that's funny.
He wasn't a hypocrite.
Fair enough, but he was a faggot then. Like,
And coming
probably
from
upset all the
Eric,
time.
coming from Eric, I mean, wow, that's like pretty scathing.
Yeah, that's some harsh criticism. I'm just kidding. I like Sterner. He's cool.
Sterner's not bad.
He also produced the likes of Nietzsche, Bakunin,
And
No, yeah, like I'm not denying that he was like super influential. Like
Oh, yeah,
totally
absolutely.
on board
he
with that.
was the only one that I can think of that was more influential than Stirner was Hegel, obviously, because
Right.
like there's like 4 different Hegelian groups. I don't know, some shit like that.
Mm-hmm. I have a
Um,
question for Patrick.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so you believe in objective morality, and there's certain things that are objectively wrong, right?
Based on the group, culture, society that you're in, yeah.
Well, that's just like an
Isn't that
appeal to
relativism?
majority, though. Like,
Like, isn't that just
well-
relativism?
Ish.
that-
It takes in parts of that, but there are some ideas that are universally accepted as evil.
Okay.
okay, well, anyway, here's my
Universally
question.
acceptable behavior intensifies.
Shut up. Anyway, here's my question. Why is it wrong to do immoral things?
Why is it wrong?
Yes, why is it wrong to do immoral things?
Well, I mean, morality itself. I mean, if you look up the definition of morality, it's something that is either good or bad. Like morality itself. And if I'm gonna pull up the actual dictionary definition here, just so I don't fuck it up, because I think you need to look into the actual definition of morality to be actual. Is that Cole?
Well, I don't think a dictionary definition is really going to help because you can get 15 different dictionaries and get 15 different definitions.
Well, I mean, you're not wrong, right? But I think the thing is that the common theme across that is it's something that is universally or societally accepted as good or bad.
Right, but why is it wrong to do immoral things is what I'm asking. I don't care if it's
Right.
good or bad.
Because the society itself has dictated that it's either a good or a bad thing to do.
Right,
Right.
but like that's just an appeal to majority fallacy in the end.
Yes, and you will
So-
be held. So you're going to be held accountable for the actions that you do that are.
Right, I'm not worried about that. I'm like saying like I'm getting at the core of the issue, like why something is wrong. I get that there will be consequences just because other people don't like it if you're caught. Like I'm not.
And
I'm
this
not
is
confused
probably one of
about
the key
that.
differences between you and me, because basically the main thing that I live my life based off of is that the initiation of force is evil, and that's it. Right? That's basically that's the way I live my life is that sole tenet right there, and that the initiation of force is evil.
Okay, well then I'll ask you like
and
why
that-
is it wrong to violate that tenet?
Why?
Yes.
Because everyone should be free from interference from outside sources.
You said should. I'd like to touch on that. Should is kind of an opinion, is it not?
Oh yeah, it is.
Okay, so then it's not objective.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we discussed
I mean,
before the show the idea that objective is existing free of the mind itself or thought, and morality
say no.
does not fit that.
no, because you just said that it. I said that it should not be. It should not happen, right? And that is
Right.
an opinion, but that is an opinion that is held by the majority of the people in a group, society, or culture, right?
Yeah,
And
universally
as such,
accepted
it
behavior.
is objectively accepted that it is evil by near on
It's a-
everybody in the society.
Well, objective would imply it's universal and imply. I'm sorry, not apply. And like it being accepted by almost everyone doesn't like make it good. I'm talking about like if it's an objective thing that's like universal, it's inherent in the fabric of our existence that's quote unquote wrong. Like I'm
Well,
asking why that's.
It's not.
Okay.
Like it's not. Individual societies will come to that conclusion by themselves.
So then there is no objective morality.
No, there is objective morality across different groups, societies, and cultures.
It's commonly accepted. Like objective, like okay, I think we're getting the definitions of objective mixed up here. Like commonly accepted and objective are not the same thing. Objective is independent of human observation. So like if it was independent of human observation, there would be these things that you could not do because they are morally wrong.
Right.
Different societies have their own standards of morality.
Right.
So if that doesn't make it objective, it just makes it universally accepted by that
individual
society.
society.
Like,
So even if humans just did not exist at all, there would still be a law that says that, you know, X or Y is wrong.
you cannot kill.
Okay.
There would still be a law that states
Right.
you can't.
That's what I'm getting at.
Okay, that's what you're getting at. Well, then, yeah, I guess I would have to agree with that because, yeah, there's no such law that says that that's gonna, yeah, no, I agree.
Okay. All right.
No, I can concede
Now-
that.
If you agree and we're done there, I remembered something I wanted to talk about with Cole,
Oh,
Go for it.
and that is how, you know, the egoist completely rejects the notion of society. that society does not exist, only the individual exists. Correct?
The spook, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
For those that don't know, Stirner considered these ideals spooks, due to the fact that the idea of spooks has some relevance to the idea of the spirit, and to connect with the spook is to remain connected with the spirit. But go on, Matt.
Like, would you then accept that, like, at least for, at least pragmatically, we should, society, how can I word this? We should accept the use of the term society, just for practical reasons, right?
Okay.
It doesn't have to actually exist, but, like, we can accept that quote-unquote society exists.
That's a really
just to make things simpler for everyone.
I mean, the non-self-conscious, or fuck, how do I word this? The egoists that don't realize they're fucking egoists could say that. Just to simplify it there. The egoists that would be part of the, as Stirner called it, the collective of egoists, or the union of egoists, would consider themselves just that, a union of egoists. There would be no because to accept anything outside of that would be to warp the union of egoists into something different.
And then, well, what makes you an individual? Like, you're made up of atoms and all that. So how is the person known as Cole any different than what we call society? In your opinion? Because I have my understanding of it, but I want to hear what you have to say.
Besides the fact that I differ a lot from a lot of people, it really just comes down to thought, I guess.
I mean, consciousness would be my answer.
Yeah. One's ideals of what is right and what is wrong, I think, really makes us differ from one another. Because
I'd also say that, like, coal's a physical thing that you can touch, like, if we're just going to accept that that's, like, a thing, and society's, like, kind of an abstract concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I can agree with that, yeah. Well, Matt, what time are we at right now?
32
just go by the... Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so if you guys are good with philosophy, I kind of want to move over and transition to something that was in the news today, which was the Mizzou demonstrations and things along that line, if you guys are okay with that.
I mean, I feel like we got some philosophy stuff to still hit.
If we still have it, yeah.
We can do it at the end.
Okay.
If you want.
Yep. So,
I feel like Eric had something to bring up because he said that.
Yeah.
I
just want to check.
What was I don't remember who I was going to ask this to.
It was probably me to rip me a new one again.
It probably was. So...
It's not that hard.
Says the egoist.
Okay, anyway. So, do you believe in, like... Well, I guess this is going to be kind of the same thing as morality. So, like, do you believe in rights? Are those just, like, societally accepted things that people say that, like, this is what we should be able to have or not have? Or are there, like, objective rights that exist in the universe independent of people?
Sorry, who are you addressing right now?
I'm addressing you. Sorry.
Oh, shit. Okay, well, hang on, then ask that again.
Okay. So I was asking if, like, you believe that morality is kind of the same way as rights, that it's just that it's, like, societally accepted in that definition of objective, that, like, it's... Like, say there's no people, like, are there still rights? I guess is what I'm asking.
No, because rights are this thing that people say, oh, they're God-given rights. Well, no, they're not. They're rights that have said that they were set down by by God and then given by governments, but because government is an illegitimate thing, no, and because you are not entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Like, if I went up to you and I killed you, then you are no longer you no longer have a life, right? You're not entitled to that. So no, I don't know. I don't agree with that.
There's one other thing I want to touch on because I feel like a few of us have a at least basic grasp of it, and this is just merely an intro episode. It's the idea of absurdism, really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Absurdism's an interesting one. I've read a little bit about it, but the basic tenets of it are that life itself is absurd, and the idea of man searching for meaning in life is also absurd. Camus likened it to the myth of Sisyphus in his novel, The Myth of Sisyphus.
Real quick, Camus rejected the term absurdism, though, or absurdist, right?
To my knowledge, he did.
Okay.
He actually stuck to the idea of existentialism,
Okay, go on.
even though he seemed to despise most existentialist philosophers. He had issues with people like Sartre, who were also absurd, as well as Nietzsche, Stirner, and other folks like that. But what Camus did with the myth of Sisyphus was, for those that don't know, Sisyphus died and was brought back to life by the gods and tricked them. Well, he was supposed to only be brought back temporarily, but found a way to live a lot longer and escape the gods, which angered them. So instead of punishing him with death and sending him to Hades in the underworld, they decided to punish him with the most, menial task they could come up with that he would do for eternity, and that was rolling the boulder up the hill. And
Mountain, but yeah.
yeah, the quote that Camus said was what was it? The struggle to such great heights touches a man's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus is happy. The thing is, there's multiple different things that Camus he leaves it like very broad, but the idea is that it can be likened to is that Sisyphus is a story of man searching for meaning in life, or Sisyphus could be an example of life itself and the menial tasks that man goes through daily. I mean, sleep, eat, shit, work, sleep, eat, shit, work.
Right. And
I noticed there was no sex in there. I feel really bad for you.
I actually can see a lot of similarities between absurdism and nihilism in that.
Yeah, they're kind of closely related.
The inherent meaning that they're going to try to find is inherently going to be unsuccessful, and they will die without actually finding it. And I think that's kind of similar to nihilism in that nihilists just say, well, there's nothing to know. So whether or not people actually search for it is up to them, but in the end, there's nothing.
I got an idea. How about we end with a little bit of self-criticism of our own ideologies?
Okay.
If that's what up to you guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Well, then shouldn't we do the Mizzou thing fairly?
Yeah, let's do the Mizzou thing, and then we can end with self-criticism.
Okay.
Cool. All right. So, University of Missouri, and a couple of people on the football team and elsewhere. Yeah, it's very, very crying, and it's, if I'm being quite honest, it's really, really scary to me because these social justice warriors have fully infiltrated the university and many universities across the country. But the demands that they've set down are such that they're actually really, really terrifying to me. And I'm going to read them off here to try to kind of give you guys some insight into what the protesters are actually demanding. Have you guys looked into this story a lot?
I've seen some stuff on it. I'm not like intimately familiar with it, but like
Okay.
I've just seen shit come across my dash.
Right.
I'm
Okay, so
into this story. I butt fucked this story.
all right, so here's the list. There's I think 10 points, eight points on it. But I'll get through them pretty quick. So the first one is that the university system president has to write a handwritten apology to the group that is putting this on. And then 2, the president itself, he has to step down as well. 3, the University of Missouri meets the demands that were presented in 1969, which are very numerous as well, by that same organization. We demand the University of Missouri creates and enforces comprehensive racial awareness and inclusion curriculum throughout all campus departments and units, mandatory for all students, faculty, staff, and administration. This curriculum must be vetted, maintained, and overseen by a board comprised of students, staff, and faculty of color. 5, we demand by the academic year 2017-18 that the University of Missouri increases the percentage of black faculty and staff by 10%. We demand that the University of Missouri composes a 10-year plan that will increase retention rates for students of color, marginalized students, and sustain diversity curriculum. 7, we demand the university increases funding and resources for the counseling center for the purpose of hiring additional mental health professionals, particularly those of color, to boost mental health outreach specifically for people of color. And 8, we demand that university increases funding, resources, and personnel for the social justice centers on campus for the purpose of hiring additional professionals, particularly those of color, boosting outreach and programming across campus, and increase campus-wide awareness and visibility. So, what that means is the social justice warriors have won because the president stepped down today.
Is this the new Occupy Wall Street?
I'd like to note too that they were like, yeah, we need retention programs for colored people. Like, isn't that just like an admission that you guys aren't fucking good enough to be in the school? Like, you're just dropping out. Like, just because you can't fucking stay in the school, like you need to get preferential treatment. Like, you need to have the bar lowered for you to stay there. That's just retarded.
Yep. And the thing is that they're saying this is all for equality. This is because we're not equal. And I think it's very obvious that they are not equal and that black students are not performing as well as white ones are. But of course, the leftist solution to this, as it is always, is instead of
I really wish you would quit calling
people
shit leftist. It's
unequal.
liberal. Like, trust me, that's not a leftist agenda.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll call them liberals. But the liberal solution to this, instead of saying, okay, we're going to be unequally high and high achieving, instead we're going to be equally shittily achieving, which I think can be seen in their economic policy as well.
I personally, my only real opinion on this is it's just fucking retarded. It's a bunch it's a bunch of people asking for special treatment because they can't do it on their own.
Yeah, and that's just fucking stupid. Like, it's not someone else's problem that you are not up to par and you're not performing at the levels that you would like to be.
The school isn't meant for everyone.
Right, yeah, not everybody's meant to go to college, and that's fine. Like, that's totally okay. Like, we still need people to do jobs that don't require a college degree, so that's not the big deal.
I ain't doing no schooling.
We don't need no education.
And then you have Bernie Sanders, who says not only should everyone go to college, but everyone should go to college for free.
Well, yeah, Bernie Sanders should kind of just die by being lit on fire.
We are 43 minutes in.
Okay. So
All right. I think we should go to the self-criticism.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll start it with
so,
saying my ideology is awesome, and so am I. Thank you very much.
Same.
But actually,
no,
That's it.
that was real.
Okay.
Professional.
what a dick.
Well, I think I already did the self-criticism for Patrick, so I think if me and Matt can hit it, then we ought to be all right.
Okay.
I was
Catholic
gonna
whole
talk
ideology
about
is the
I
self-criticism.
don't know how you're going to
Out of
criticize
judgment.
nihilism because there doesn't make any claims, but go ahead.
I mean, like, I was just gonna go from like an objectivist standpoint, like for people that argue for rights or morality or shit. Like, it's usually the one I get most often is like human nature. People will argue that, like, I've seen it argued that through evolution that we've evolved to have these predispositions or propensities to act and behave in certain ways, and so by our human nature, that is quote unquote what is right or wrong or moral or immoral or how we should or should not behave. I think
That's
I've
what
seen
I'm
that
arguing
argued,
all fucking
which
day.
I think is kind of fucking stupid. But I mean, like, that's one of the criticisms I've seen of it. So
And I think that something that, and along those same lines, is that, like I said, individual group societies and cultures will form their own form their own moralities that then have to be adhered to. And I think nihilists kind of leave that out and kind of say, well, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want to and fuck the consequences.
yeah, I mean,
And I
why
think
would you
most of
not?
the same way.
Like,
Is there
submitting to
no
that shit's
point
being a
in life?
pussy.
I guess my criticism of Marxism would be that
Is that it's
Um,
Marxism?
Yeah, it's Marxism.
but is that it relies on the idea of ownership, specifically. Like, it's very class oriented.
Whenever you're done, can we talk about ownership? Because I feel like that's kind of an interesting topic.
Exactly, that's what I'm kind
Yeah.
of going to get into. Is that it relies on the idea of ownership, and that these contradictions rely in the who owns the means of production. But I don't see any evidence that ownership is an inherent quality of the universe,
Yeah,
and
I don't
nothing
either.
more than just a human idea. And therefore, Marxist materialism becomes almost idealistic, which is kind of, that's the exact opposite of what it's supposed to be. And I'll probably
Right.
get some shit from Marxists from saying that, but
No,
and
I
perhaps
think
I'm
you're
completely
spot
wrong.
on. No, I think you're spot on in your
Okay.
analysis
Yeah.
because I don't think ownership's like actually a thing. It's just something we
Okay.
made up because like your property can be taken from you at any time. Like ownership is not control, right? Like
There is
ownership implies that you like it's a part of you. Like this
Yeah.
is something that you possess. Control is just like you have control of yourself. Like whenever people say you own yourself or you own property, it's like you just have control over yourself. Like ownership's kind of this weird philosophical thing to define because there's no like real criteria for it. Like to try to distinguish it from like control over something is just like assigning artificial like metaphysical claims to your
It's a
control
spook.
over it.
Ownership
Yeah,
Right.
is a
basically.
spook.
It really is.
And-
Like no
And
joke.
especially when you're talking about ownership in that way, it's very similar to government in that it's an invented concept that most people subscribe to. Right? So, think about this for a second. Like, government is an organization of people that a group of people come together and said, okay, you get these powers over everyone because the majority says so. And in the same way, the ownership thing, while it normally can rely on government to stay in place, ownership is more of the like I have this and it's in my house, therefore, and this house is mine, so therefore this is mine, right? So I think
Couldn't
they're
you
kind of
apply that to morality too? Like it's just these people have a set of powers over everybody else just because this group of people said so.
Eating people's wrong. Let's go eat this pig.
Oh, okay. This is kind of interesting. It's not my own thing. I've heard it elsewhere. But Cole, for you, do you see really any sort of? I mean, is it hypocritical to say that bestiality is wrong, but then say that eating an animal is completely fine?
I have no problem with if you want to fuck an animal, fuck an animal.
Okay.
But I'm gonna call you fucking weird.
Cole, same
I was
question.
gonna say
but
because it's kind of weird to say that, hey, you can't have sex with that animal because I want to cut it up, slaughter it, and eat it.
But here's a question in response. Why is it okay to eat some animals but not others?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you,
Why
Cole.
can't I sit here and eat a fucking cat if I want to? Or why can't I go down the street, knock on my neighbor's door, shoot them and kill them and eat them? I mean,
Basically, because feels. People are emotionally attached to animals. No, like, no shit. People are just, like, emotionally attached to animals that we've domesticated over time, like house pets and shit.
Pigs have been domesticated as well.
I say house pets. Like, that's probably the standard I'll use.
What about people?
Yeah, why can't I go out and eat a person?
I'm not saying you can't. I don't know. Like, I'm just saying that's what people fucking do. They're just like, oh, well, what feels about this thing?
Because individual groups, cultures, and societies have determined that was well. Some have decided to determine that it's right, and some have determined that it's wrong.
All right, we're about 50 minutes in. I think we can probably bring this to a close.
Yep, I think you're right. What are we at? 50? Is that what you said?
50, yeah.
All right,
So-
much like Patrick said, people subscribe to the government. You all should subscribe to us.
Nice segue.
Nice.
That was legit.
Savage.
Not in the same way, though. Do not adhere to everything we say. Just subscribe to our channel. Like it, share it, do whatever you have to. Tell your friends, for God's sake. We don't
Fuck
care.
that like button up, alright? Like, smash
What?
that shit, yo.
And you know what? That comment section, that better be full of just shit that gives Eric shit. Constantly.
Yeah.
The
Call me a
constant-
faggot. Like, abuse me in the comment section. I want to hear what you think.
Can we actually have comments about the podcast, please, though? That would
Yes.
be very
And
nice.
comments about the
Hey.
podcast.
Some suggestions would be nice.
Yes.
Yeah,
So-
tell us if you like the format. Tell us if you like the. Just give us ideas for topics. Just like let us know your thoughts because we are very interested to see what you have to say.
And we, to be quite honest, are very, very new at this, and we need all the input that we can get. But for us, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. We appreciate it. This has been the Left, the Right, and the Absurd. I hope you guys all have a good
Good evening and good night.
Nice.